Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Farmington Planning Commission meeting for December the 8th, 2025. Could we have a roll call, please?
Gretcher.
Here.
Gray.
Here.
Comezzo. Manti.
Here.
Majoris. Perot.
Here.
Westendorf.
Here.
Thank you, thank you. Item number 2, approval of the items on consent agenda for November the 10th. Do we have any comments or questions from commissioners? All right. Any comments or questions from staff? Good to go? All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion made and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Item number 3, the regular agenda for this evening. Do we have any questions or anything? I think everybody had ample time to review. All right, motion?
Motion to approve agenda.
Support.
Motion made and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Unfinished business, seeing that there's none. Mr. Weber, if you could, with new business?
Sure. This agenda item is 33431 Grand River Parking Waiver Request. A developer has entered into a purchase agreement with the current owner of 33431 Grand River Avenue and is considering converting the upper floor of the building to 4 to 5 apartments. The structure is built lot line to lot line and there's no parking available on the site. The applicant is seeking a parking waiver from the Planning Commission for the proposed new apartments under section 35-104.D.3. This section of the zoning code states that because the regulations of this section are intended to encourage pedestrian transit-friendly design and compact mixed-use development that requires less reliance on automobiles, on-site parking required under Article 14 may be waived under the following conditions. A, the site is located within 500 feet of other parking facilities intended for public use, such as a municipal parking lot, parking structure, or on-street parking that provides adequate parking spaces to serve the proposed use. And B, failure to provide on-site parking shall be deemed to constitute an acknowledgement and acceptance of a benefit, the relaxation of on-site parking standards, such that if the city establishes a special assessment district to fund the construction, operation, and maintenance of public parking that will serve the property owner agrees to become part of such a district and further agrees to payment of the assessment in lieu of providing on-site parking. The city may require a written acknowledgement with respect to the benefit provided. Today I would invite the developer to come up and field any questions that the Planning Commission might have related to the project.
Good evening, my name is Steve Toth, 8110 Pine Ridge Court, Northville, Michigan. And as Mr. Weber indicated, we're very excited about a project, taking the old Focal Point photography studio, keep the downstairs as a retail, commercial, and then transferring the up, which is about 4,500 square feet, putting in some custom apartments. I think it'd be a great project for the city. Obviously, we're right in the heart of the downtown area. But again, one of the biggest issues we have is parking. So I guess per city code, if we have 5 apartments, we need 10 spots. Is that correct?
Currently.
So that's what we're asking for. I don't need 10 dedicated spots, but we need 10 spots where our tenants can obviously park and for the evening and, then go about through the day, either do their business or whatever. I need 10 spots. And so that's what we're asking from you guys tonight. Any questions?
If you have any questions about the development itself, any curiosity, you could ask the developer. Otherwise, I would ask Adriana to talk about the letter that was included in your packet that talks about considerations for the Planning Commission in terms of granting that waiver.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
So any questions for Mr. Toth?
I'd like to actually hear a report first before.
Oh, sure, okay. Then I would turn it over to Adriana.
Good evening, Commissioners. So the current existing use there is a photography studio, and per the existing zoning ordinance parking requirements, a photography studio that takes up both the first floor and the second floor requires approximately 25 spaces plus 5 employee spaces, because the way that the zoning ordinance is written for the minimum parking requirements is 3 spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross leasable area plus 1 space per employee. Now, we do not have an exact figure for the gross leasable area for the current use, so we have estimated it at 85% of the gross square footage, which again equals out to requiring 25 spaces plus the spaces for the employees. So that is 30 spaces total for the existing use that's there. Now, what the applicant is proposing is to use the first floor for either commercial or office development and then put up to 5 apartments on the second floor. And if that is the case, we would be looking at, as the applicant mentioned, a requirement of 10 spaces on the second floor under the current provisions of the zoning ordinance, which I am adding that caveat because I know that you are looking potentially at modifying some of the provisions of the zoning ordinance in the future for minimum parking requirements for multifamily residential as well as for office uses. But under the current provisions, you have 10 spaces required if the applicant moves forward with up to 5 apartments on the second floor, and then an additional 20 spaces required for the first floor, based off of the calculation of 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet of gross leasable area for either commercial development or office development on that first floor. Together, that is a requirement, a minimum parking requirement of 30 spaces for what the applicant is proposing, which actually equals exactly what the parking demand is from the existing use as a photography studio. So there is really no change in the parking demand from converting it from a photography studio to what the applicant wants to do. And if anything, we believe it could actually be a small reduction in demand because the peak hours of usage for multifamily residential would be different than the peak hours of usage for what would be on the first floor. And that is also something that is referenced in your zoning ordinance. I'll get you the code section here in a second. Section 35-172I, reduction or modification of required spaces, states that shared parking by multiple uses where there will be a high proportion of multi-purpose visits or uses that have peak parking demands during differing times of the day or week, that can be factored into a waiver consideration by the Planning Commission. So that is a summary of what the applicant is proposing relative to what's currently there.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Do you have any questions from commissioners?
Question. Have you done and I would just have a site plan outline here. Have you done a test fit of how many units you'll actually be able to get into there?
We're working on that currently, so it's a minimum of 4, possibly 5. So we're kind of debating in terms of size-wise.
And by the time, without seeing the plan of the building, by the time you get circulation and whatnot for the second floor, are you still going to get the whole, was it 5,000 square feet on the first floor?
It's a little over 5,000, yeah, we're keeping, I'm sorry, you're asking for the first floor?
I'm asking, after you, let's say, and when you do your test fit for the units and getting circulation to get up to the units, are you going to lose any square footage? Reason I'm asking is I know there's a minimum, there's a parking space per square foot of the commercial.
Okay.
But when you develop it into the residential, you may reduce the square footage, lightening the parking load if the square footage drops.
Well, it's a little bit less. I mean, what I have on the first floor is 5,700 square feet. Is that what you were thinking, 57? And yeah, we're gonna lose a little bit of the common areas because we have to make now access. There's an elevator, and so we're gonna lose some of that. So yeah, there will be a.
Trying to look for arguments for ways to reduce your parking.
What's that?
Look for arguments to reduce your parking requirement.
Well, ultimately, it'll play out like it plays out. But, you know, we will. I mean, yeah, we're going to lose some of that space on the first level.
So effectively, I know you 30 spaces is the requirement, but it's possible it could be 29.
Potentially, if there's 4 units, it could be 28 spaces under the current parking requirements, and even less than that if in the future you further reduce. I do want to just note that we actually used a square footage of 5,000 square feet for the first floor because of looking at it from the GLA standpoint rather than taking the total square footage.
Okay. And
So we reduced it for him.
And the second question, one of the requirements here that, was that you be within 500 feet of other public parking. I know there's a parking lot right across the alley, right behind the building. Do you know the distance, do we know the distance from here to the other lot behind the church across Grand River? Is that anywhere near the 500-foot mark?
I can calculate that in a minute.
I don't know if you were aware of that, and as the applicant, did you know that there's a public parking of,
I was aware of it, but for our apartments, it's gonna be difficult. I mean, we're gonna need the spots or, in the area.
but if it's 500 feet, it counts.
I understand that, but it makes it more difficult to have somebody park across the street in a public and then walk across to their apartment.
It is within 500 feet.
And the reason I'm asking is because with having that there, you meet the requirement with the parking across the alley
Okay?
and the other space. So now we have more than enough to justify what your request.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out.
I'm supposed to be making it harder for you, huh?
I think it's a great project for the city.
I'm on the wrong side of the table.
Not too many apartments around here, so
Yeah.
I think it'd be a very good opportunity. And we're excited about it. We have other projects, and I had never, until I looked at the building, I hate to admit, I live in Northfield, I've lived in this area my whole life. I had never been to downtown Farmington. And when I came down and I looked at the building and just walked around and saw the traffic and saw all the activity, I was pretty excited. So that's why we're, willing to spend a lot of money to get this done, but we're pretty excited about the area, so.
That's my questions.
So the north so across Grand River, north of the park, there's the angled parking on the road. That's probably,
No, there's parking behind the church.
Both of those.
There's a little
There's a lot there, and there's parking behind the church. So there's a lot of spaces.
yeah, that's what I'm saying is there's, when you look at it on a map, granted, Google's Google, but when you look at it on a map, it kind of gives you a little better feel for,
So I think just in the big picture of parking in downtown, if all the residents and customers park in the Pages lot, there's still plenty of spots.
yeah, yep.
You're not putting a hurt on them.
Yeah, it's still, reasonable distance, right?
This might be a question more for staff or HM. How much of that lot behind the building, adjacent to the building right now, is like 24-hour overnight parking? And now, I don't know if you'd have to like put hang tags or something so that the residents could park in.
Identify 'em.
Yeah, to identify that, no, this is a resident parking in a spot, they can park here. I don't know how that would work.
Most of the lot is untimed. There are some 3-hour.
I know we've talked
Max
about timing portions of that lot, so.
Yep. So the parts of that parking lot, which is, I think, one row, that is 3-hour parking, those are,
Yeah, the-
there's signage that tells you that, so.
Right.
The
Of
first
course,
row.
they would, whoever's at the apartments would, get a ticket if they're parking in the wrong spot, but they would know based on what's posted.
That first row is 3-hour parking, but the rest of it is untimed.
They'll figure it out pretty
The
quick, I
lot,
think.
the lot behind the church is untimed, and I think that other lot, there's timed parking on the street, and then there's untimed parking on the other side of the library. So there's plenty of untimed parking within a reasonable distance of.
Do we know how much of that untimed lot gets used kind of for that purpose right now? I'm just curious, like, I know, obviously during the day, there are people coming in for work and, visiting, frequenting the restaurants and so on, businesses.
I do believe some of the residents of the other.
How many residents are there?
Yeah, there's some of the residents of the other apartments, I think they do park there.
Okay.
Because that's been an issue, some of them have been parking in the places we don't want them to park, but I think they've solved that.
Yeah, I'm just looking at kind of the demand on that type of parking in there.
I can shed some light on that.
Please.
So, although I'm not sure how many residents might be parking overnight in that lot at the absolute peak period of usage for parking in the downtown, I'm probably not close enough to this, which would be during the Saturday farmer's market in the summertime, that particular lot is between 25 and 50% occupied during farmer's market. So I would imagine it's actually lower occupancy for the church lot during other times of the day.
Only 50% during farmer's market?
Tops,
That doesn't
between
sound right.
25 and 50%.
Well, you can't see the market from there, so.
And plus, you know, you're talking families and folks having to cross Farmington Road to get to the market, so I can see where it's not gonna be the most desirable location, you know?
But it is free and untimed.
I mean, I
So
couldn't
is the
park there
sidecar
all
lot.
day.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Fraction of the precise occupancy at Saturday at 11 a.m. It is 32% occupied.
Oh, well, that just breaks it.
Do we have any other questions for the petitioners?
Motion?
If you see fit.
I would move to approve the parking waiver request for 33431 Grand River Avenue, subject to the first floor being used for commercial retail and/or service office business, because the proposed uses can be adequately supported by the public parking.
Support?
Motion made and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, the petitioners.
I could just add one item there too.
Yes, sir.
We're also not necessarily limiting them to commercial or retail on the first floor. It's just if they were to do something more intensive there, they'd have to come back and request.
It says commercial retail or service office.
But like if they wanted a restaurant or something where there's gonna be a lot of people coming, they would have to come back and ask for a further waiver.
They'd have to come back for a restaurant anyway, no matter what. wouldn't they?
I don't know if that's a special land use or permitted
I
by right.
think, I think that would be,
I'd have to look at that, yeah. I'll take your word for it, I know.
Letter B. Parks and Rec, are we in need of a recess, or are we?
Nope, we're ready to go. Thank you for asking.
All right, Mr. Weber, if you're ready, you could give us a little warm-up.
Sure. The city is required to address the topic of parks and recreation as part of its master plan for land use. Additionally, preparation of a formal parks and recreation master plan gives the city the ability to submit requests for various recreation-based grants. Most notably, for grants from the Michigan National Resources Trust Fund. As part of its application process, the trust fund requires that a formal 5-year Parks and Recreation plan be on file with it, and that the plan has been subject of appropriate public input, including a formal public hearing, and has been adopted by the governing body of the community. Today, the consultants who have been hired by the city to create the plan, OHM, are here to present the Parks and Rec Master Plan to the Planning Commission. And after their presentation, and after all questions have been answered to your satisfaction, administration would be looking for you to schedule a public hearing for your January 12th meeting. And then we would publish a notice in the paper so that people can review the Parks and Rec plan and submit any comments, concerns, attaboys, whatever, to the Planning Commission for their meeting in January. So with that, I will turn it over to OHM, who has a presentation today.
Great.
Thank
you. Good evening, everybody. Rachel and I are really excited to be here. This has been a very busy year as we have been working through 3 plans with the city. This is the first of the 3. And the reason that this is before you is because of the timing of trying to get this into the DNR before the February 1st deadline. So that's why we are pushing this, but you will see us again in January with the master plan. So with that, I'm going to do a quick intro, and then I will turn it over to Rachel, and we will get right into the meat of the document. So our agenda. I'm going to go through a summary of kind of what we have done during the time frame of January really until now. And then, as I said, Rachel's going to talk about the Parks and Rec plan, what we learned, what we heard, and then we'll get into the framework, and then next steps, so you understand the full adoption process. So as I mentioned, we have been working on 3 deliverables for you. This was definitely very unique when the city decided, well, let's do all 3 of these plans at the same time. But it worked out really well because we were able to have representatives from the various boards and the steering committee meetings and really work through a lot of the issues that are interrelated. I mean, between the master plan and the downtown plan and the Parks and Rec plan, there's a lot of synergy, there's a lot of overlap. And so that's why, while this is a different process than we're typically used to, I think it went actually really well and really smoothly. Other than the adoption process, which is, the state always has to add a little bit of a unique review process for Parks and Rec versus the master plan. But we're working through that. So here is the timeline. Now, I realize up here it's probably kind of small, and I might actually be standing right in front of it. So I do apologize, but you've got that in front of you. It's also a little bit tiny there. But what we've done here is we have taken our original scope and kind of built it out so that you can see what we did along the way. So, I mean, obviously, we kicked this project off during the Task 1 investigate phase. This was in January. We did a data collection, and then we did a lot of public engagement. And during this time, we also got a lot of feedback from the steering committee. We prepared the draft plan, once again, circled back, got additional feedback. We finalized that draft plan, and now we're starting that adoption process. You'll see that, Task 5, finalize and implement. It is extended over a period of time. This will be the first plan to be adopted. And then the master plan, as Chris was mentioning, will come to you in January, and then there will be a 43-day review period for that. Don't ask me why 43. That's what the state has required for an amendment to a plan. And then it'll be adopted by you and then go on to council from there just for their concurrence. It's always a good idea for the entity that holds the purse strings to make sure that they're on the same page with you. So with that, I will turn it over to Rachel to get into the nuts and bolts.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to present the Parks and Recreation Plan update tonight. Why does this matter? We've already touched on this. The plan is a key tool for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources grant funding, and it's also a really important exercise to explore changes in the community and understand what the short, medium, and long-term investments could look like over the next 5-year period. So what we intend with the Parks and Rec plan is to establish and communicate the shared vision for the next 5 years, determine and prioritize short, medium, and long-term investments. This plan should be used to get support for Michigan DNR grant funding, and it can be updated, it can be revisited and updated as necessary over the next 5 years and incorporate evolving community priorities. And we've created the flexibility for that in the implementation section, which we will get to. We kind of talked about the project process thus far. We've met with a steering committee of about 15 different folks throughout the course of this project. We just concluded with our 7th meeting in mid-November. And we've also, along the way, had several community engagement touch points. We gathered a lot of information to form the foundation of this plan, and here we are now preparing for adoption. So to explain what we learned, I've kind of broken this up into a few different components. So we started with the basics. We reviewed the previous master plan, downtown plan, and Parks and Rec plan to pull out what was important to the community then. We built on that through a demographic analysis. We updated the Parks and Recreation inventory. Quite a few facilities have been added to the parks, and quite a few parks have been added to your system since the last plan was created. We also completed a park access analysis, which looks at how many residents live within a 10-minute walk of your parks, the level of service analysis, and the park conditions assessments. So taken together, we gathered all of this information to form the foundation for the plan's recommendations. So through the demographic analysis, what we're trying to learn is who lives in Farmington now and who are Farmington's future park users and what could their needs be. So one of the most important takeaways from demographics is shifts in population, and Farmington's population is stable. We see a significant increase in the older adult population over 65 years and a decrease in the youth population. Now, typically, I'll admit, I don't like to do data analysis for population, particularly beyond 10 years. I feel like that's when the crystal ball kind of starts to shake and crack a little bit. SEMCOG has a really great resource for projections beyond 10 years called the Regional Forecast. And that's where we obtain the data for 2040 and 2050 that you'll see in these slides. So through this analysis, the implications for Parks and Recreation is that park amenities can evolve to be friendly for older adults, smaller households, and focusing more on passive recreation and gathering spaces, places for socializing, instead of maybe child-focused infrastructure like playgrounds. Here is the map of the parks in Farmington. A total of 12 parks and recreation facilities, almost 40 total acres. And that includes mini parks, which are, you may ask, what's the difference between mini parks and pocket parks? It is further explained. The classifications are further explained in the plan, but we see a big difference in mini parks, which kind of function as green space, and pocket parks, which are a little more dynamic for social gathering, things like that. We added a classification of special use facilities. Riley Park is activated through the wintertime with an ice rink. That's huge. It's a hub for activity all summer long with the farmers market and various events and festivals. That and the Warner Mansion, we consider to be special use facilities. And then neighborhood parks and, of course, your community park, Shiawassee Park. So this is the park access or walkability analysis I was talking about, and the typical metric is for 80% of a community to live within a 10-minute walk to a park. So the good news is that 60% of your residents are within a 10-minute walk of a city park. You'll see visually and through that statistic, there are gaps. However, one thing that we discussed in depth with the steering committee is the access to school district facilities, which may supplement the gaps in walkable park amenities, and also the access to regional amenities, which is not included in this analysis. So just understanding where gaps are tells us where, you know, should there be a development at some point? Is there an opportunity to include recreation amenities? That is what we wanted to explore here and help guide recommendations. So the level of service analysis is a report that comes out from the National Recreation and Park Association every year. They complete a survey with over 900 communities, and you are then able to compare Farmington's performance and level of service to peers of a similar population. So this is meant to be a guideline. It's not meant to be a mandate where you're comparing yourself to the average or the median of other communities, and you're just like, gosh, we gotta go out and build a dog park and a skate park tonight. Like, that isn't how they're meant to be interpreted. It's just a guideline, and then you can further assess based on local conditions and your priorities. So when you're considering any amenity, the first thing you're gonna consider is just like, does it meet the needs of our community? Are residents asking for it? And then also considering maintenance as well. So the level of service analysis does tell us, you know, there's a high number of residents per playground, for example. That means your playgrounds might get more wear and tear because more people are using them compared to the median. So just things to keep in mind for maintenance plans as well. And for the park condition assessment, this was a boots on the ground effort to go to each park and document all of the different amenities and assets in the park and grade them on a scale of 1 to 5 based on their condition and aesthetics. We also developed aerial maps of each park, showing where the boundaries are. We also looked at accessibility as well, and just kind of created this really comprehensive guide of what the conditions of the park are, what you can find there, and where they're located and how many people live within a 10-minute walk of the park. Now, for community engagement, we had multiple channels to receive feedback over the course of this project. We had focus group meetings in the spring. We had 2 farmers market pop-ups, one in May, one in October, and we had 2 community surveys, one in May and one in October. And the plan will provide a more in-depth, a deeper dive into what we heard through community engagement. I'm just going to hit on what I think some of the key feedback is. So we learned in the discovery analysis, you know, that these age changes, these population shifts we wanted to test, you know, the passive improvements and the different types of recreation people like to do with the community. So this is what we heard as far as what people enjoy doing in Farmington's parks, and it just kind of affirms that people want to just get outside and enjoy parks and green space, leisurely exercise, socializing, relaxing, and getting fresh air. And similarly, as far as park improvements that should receive the highest prioritization, the top answers are to enhance passive use areas, expand trails and connectivity, and renovate existing park amenities. People aren't necessarily asking for new, shiny objects. They want to see their parks invested in and improvements that make them a more enjoyable place to be. So for the first open house, we were just kind of gathering as much information as possible. We left the prompt pretty open. We provided folks with the list of parks and asked them 2 questions. What's working and what's missing? What would you really like to see happen at these parks? So I'm not going to read these word for word, but the feedback further affirmed that folks want to see accessibility improvements, connectivity, shade, picnic areas, places to gather, walkability as well, just being able to cross Grand River more easily or access Shiawassee Park from downtown. So these initial comments really laid the foundation. In addition to the information we'd gathered, we looked at this and digested it and used it to form our preliminary recommendations. So just kind of jumping ahead here, we developed recommendations and potential improvements for, I believe, a total of five parks. And we presented them to the community at the open house in October and asked them to tell us what they were most excited about. So that's the table that you see on the slide here, ranked in descending order. So ultimately, folks, what we heard through the community engagement was to activate parks with programming, events, and fitness amenities, encouraging year-round use, prioritizing green spaces, making parks and civic areas more inviting, and where you are adding play equipment, making sure that it is inclusive and accessible for all ages, and just to make parks more functional and practical and improve connectivity, cleanliness, maintenance, and enhance underused and underused public spaces with landscaping, beautification, and public art. We know that's very important to the community. So with that, I will kind of get into the structure of the Parks and Rec plan. What we've talked about so far touches on chapters 1 through 5, and what we're going to spend the remaining time talking about is chapter 6. So, we developed a goal statement for the Parks and Recreation plan, and that came from what we heard through community engagement. We tested this with the steering committee, and ultimately, the community wants to see active, inclusive, and accessible parks and recreation opportunities that enhance quality of life, support community gathering, and promote health and wellness. From the community engagement and with the steering committee, we developed these 5 objective statements, which support the accomplishment of that goal statement. And while I won't get into it in this presentation, the Parks and Rec plan does break down action items to implement each of these objectives. So the more exciting part is the park-specific plans. We developed a series of recommendations for a handful of the parks. So while not all of the parks are in this slide deck, they are in alphabetical order. So that's how I'm going to move through these recommendations. It's not a level of prioritization that we're looking at in this presentation. So we understand that the Civic Theater is beloved by the community. And ultimately, the recommendation is to start doing some community engagement on facility improvements and complete a needs assessment and concept design for future improvements. Drake Park, some accessibility improvements, potentially converting a ball field into a cricket pitch based on demand, and exploring a location for a small pavilion to encourage gathering and provide shade. For Flanders Park, there's an opportunity to increase shade throughout the park, installing lighting that is not intrusive to the surrounding neighborhood, but helps create, a feeling of safety and more inviting, particularly as it gets dark at 5 p.m. these days. And also, we understand that the play equipment is relatively new, but as the structure reaches the end of its usable life and the surfacing has an opportunity to be replaced, it could be replaced with a accessible shredded rubber surfacing. And there was also several requests to introduce more toddler-friendly equipment in this play area. So Gazebo Park, this one is really important to hit on because as we were talking with the steering committee, a new vision has been, this area just has been reimagined. So you're gonna get a bit of a sneak peek at some of the elements that will be shown in the downtown master plan. But ultimately, just to be clear, this little wedge here is the location of Gazebo Park. This is a map of the downtown focus areas. And we ultimately developed a new vision for this block of parcels.
Excuse me, if you could take the microphone up with you, just so.
Oh,
the
I'm
guys-
sorry.
They can hear you. It'll unclip out of the.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
At the base?
Yeah, it should.
Maybe we'll get the portable mic. There's a,
Okay. Yeah, I'd say either that or you could just grab. Yeah, it's either that or this microphone over here, so.
So there, in the pop out, in the top right corner is sort of a preliminary vision or site plan for where Gazebo Park is located. Moving on to Riley Park. Oh,
The power button on the
did I
top.
turn it off too?
oh,
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry,
gotta start
everyone.
from the beginning now.
All over, start from the beginning. All right, everyone. Cool. So we heard support for electric upgrades, exploring the addition of restrooms to Riley Park, winterizing it through the addition of those rolling glass garage doors on the shed. We also heard about just some accessibility and safety concerns and circulation concerns too, particularly on the south side of the park, and could curbless design and circulation improvements be considered there, as well as a covered parking area that could function as a more permanent vendor shed during events. So parking wouldn't change. It would be a covered parking area that is accessible to vendors during events and farmers markets. The highly anticipated Promenade Park is also included in the Parks and Rec plan. And ultimately, the main action here is to start developing a calendar of events and programming for this site. And here's what it could look like when completed. Shiawassee Park is the truly the gem of Farmington. And our recommendations are to connect the park to downtown, which is an ongoing effort, as well as do community engagement and develop a master plan for Shiawassee Park, which looks at entrance points and connectivity to the surrounding neighborhoods, potentially updating some of the amenities like the bocce ball court, the playground, and exploring opportunities for an off-leash dog park or a bicycle pump track. And for the Warner Mansion, the main objective here is to explore the feasibility of this concept plan, which features parking lot improvements, new event space, interior and exterior improvements, in addition to the existing house, ADA accessibility improvements, gazebo improvements, and courtyard improvements. Now I will pass it back over to Jennifer to talk about the next steps.
Everybody do a little dance here. Okay, thanks, Rachel. As I mentioned in the beginning, after this process, we will start the implementation and adoption. So tonight, officially opening up the 30-day public review period. This is required by the DNR. So there's going to be a notice published in the paper on Wednesday, and all of the requisite entities will be notified of this timeframe to review the document that will be on and actually is live on the website, correct? So anyone will be able to look at it on the website, provide comments on the website. So that's another means, and we've included that in the notice. So that will be a great opportunity, and I know like for example, the DDA looked at the plan. They possibly will provide comments during the public review period. So, I mean, it's an opportunity for not just you, but for other boards and others to provide feedback, because obviously this is your plan. We want to make sure that it represents the community. So then on January 12th, we will have a public hearing. So you will see us back again. And that is the same night that Rachel and I and one other from OHM will be back here to present the master plan. So we will be here for 2 presentations that night. And then hopefully that evening, you will feel comfortable and ready to approve the plan. And then it will go to council for their final adoption. And as I said, by February 1st, it will be submitted to the DNR. So with that, any questions, comments, discussion points? I know 2 of you, actually 3 of you up here have been engaged throughout at every steering committee meeting. And thank you very much for that. And I know others have been engaged throughout the process. So, but we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I just had just a couple of things just to kind of get started. I can't help but to think of, when we were talking about accessibility and making sure that you have Parks and Recreation in close proximity to as many people as you can. We are the weirdest shape pretty much possible. So it's such a constraint. But we still are able to, south of town, it's a little more difficult. But we were able to add Flanders Park when Flanders School went away. And there's recommendations, obviously, for all the parks, but there's recommendations in there for that one. And having, the mansion and having the downtown, and there's just, you look in a lot of different directions, and granted, there's some neighborhoods that are a little underserved, but we're very, very fortunate for what we do have. And that was one thing that I was curious about is there any other, and obviously we don't need hard facts right now, but like, what is your temperature for how the city of Farmington is doing versus like communities?
I think it's got an incredibly diverse system, to echo what you were saying. you know, a historic mansion, a community-owned and operated theater. Like, those are very unique features of Farmington's Parks and Recreation system. And we know for a fact that people from surrounding communities come to Farmington to visit the downtown parks and Shiawassee Park very frequently. So, you know, I think just reading the survey responses, the folks who do live here and use Farmington's parks, they love their parks, and they are really invested in and can get behind the city continuing to invest in their public parks and public spaces.
Yeah, and I know several of us, we've had a lot of good continuity with this group over the years, and with, you know, very little turnover and things like that. So a lot of us have been involved with a lot of different projects that have gone, you know, investments into, Dinan Park, is a brand new park, you know, the Masonic Park, it's another one that's brand new. And Flanders Park, you know, years ago, but we're very fortunate, very blessed to the mix that we do have, and it's the focus, the continued focus that the city has on it, because that's a pretty good temperature for the quality of your community too, is do people use the parks? You know, are they comfortable to be outside? Are they comfortable to send their kids down the street to go to the park? So.
The other thing, if I could, is when you recall when Rachel was making a presentation, she kept referring to some of these benchmarks as really, I mean, they're guidelines. They're not mandates. You don't have to have 80%. You don't have to meet all of these additional requirements. It is what works for you. And, you know, when we looked at comparing Farmington to other comparable communities, I mean, you're certainly in line with as far as the quantity of parks that you have, but the diversity of your parks is really far superior to most.
Yeah, and it's just, I can't get over, like I said, the irregular shape, and just the small, it's 2.2 square miles or something like that, of an irregular space, and what we get out of it, you know, and obviously what we invest into it, so.
And we obviously didn't look at private facilities, we didn't look at
Yeah.
the schools, so, yeah. I mean, when you look at that prior map, in those areas where they were quote-unquote gaps, you can see that there are green spots in there.
Yep. Yes, sir.
You also mentioned on one of the steering committee meetings how, you know, due to that irregular shape, right, there could be a park just the other side of that, you know, city line that, you know, we don't
Right.
technically have the park in Farmington proper, but, you know, there's still a park within
Yeah, it's
walkable distance
readily
from
available,
that
yeah.
house, potentially,
Yep.
in some of these cases. And like, that Heritage Park up there, you know.
Sure.
That throws the numbers way the other direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so this plan looks specifically at the budget items, basically, that Farmington is responsible for. So we can't factor in school districts, amenities, private facilities, but we have a list of them and acknowledge that they're there
Yeah.
for the community to use.
Yeah, you can't just focus on the city, you really gotta look at the entire area, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
the entire region, yeah, including Oakland County parks, state parks, exactly, yeah.
And we did that through the mobility plan, where we did look at all of those, and you'll see that when we come back with the overall master plan. But you will see connections to some of those facilities included in there.
Do we have any other comments or questions for petitioners? Mr. Ken, I see the gears are turning.
Nope, nothing's been in here.
All right, so thank you very much. We greatly appreciate your time and your presentation, and it's very insightful, and we appreciate your ongoing efforts.
No problem. Our pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and happy holidays to all of
You
you.
too. So do we have a motion to schedule the public hearing for January. Oh, that's a good point. Chris, do you have the date for January? 12th? January 12th? Do we have a motion?
Move to schedule a public hearing to consider the 2025 Recreation Master Plan at the January 12th Planning Commission meeting.
I'll support.
Motion made and supported. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Item D, under new business, the 2026 schedule of planning commission meetings. Chris, do you have any comments or calendar?
Yeah, each December, we set the calendar for the upcoming year, so the 2026 calendar year. Same schedule as always, the second Monday of the month at 7 PM, unless there's any issues related to that.
All right, and that's not an action item, right? It's not a, really need
I
to.
think we just move to approve the calendar.
Okay. We have a motion?
Motion to approve the calendar for the 2026 Planning Commission meeting schedule.
I'll support.
Motion made and supported. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Updates, current developments and projects. Mr. Weber.
Sure. Before I update on that, just an update. At our last meeting, we were going to set a public hearing for a change to the parking rules. We're going to do that at this meeting. But before I published that public hearing notice, I had to go through our ordinances and pull out all the different places that it needed to change, and didn't get a chance to do that. So probably what's going to happen is in our January meeting, I'm going to come back and ask you to reset a public hearing for the February meeting. And at that time, I'll have red line versions of everything that's going to change, just so if the public wants to know every specific spot that's changing, we have that information for them. So I'll come back to
Strikes and bolds type of thing.
strikes and bolds, yes.
That new development will be done by then.
Strikes and bolds sounds like a good board game. I don't know, maybe. Strikes and bolds. As far as development projects, so just to give you a quick update on Legion Square, the apartments that are down on the east side of Grand River. We had a pre-construction meeting with them today, and they're looking to get going on work mid-January.
Okay.
So that should be moving at that time. Hillside Towns, buildings are continuing to be constructed. We now have 12 certificates of occupancy, 53 units, and I met a couple of the people that have already moved in, so.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. We had a couple of new businesses open. We have a meat market that opened called Meat Point down at the Drakeshire Plaza Shopping Center. And they offer premium quality halal meat, including chicken, fish, and goat. So there you go. Something to look forward to. There's also in the same plaza, there's a new sports bar that opened called Sips. That's right near Mama Eats. So Mama Eats is on that south building, and then on the west building is the sports bar that opened there.
And that's the same
Same owner.
gentleman that came in front of us a couple years ago?
2 years.
Was it 2 years ago? Yeah. Man, time flies. 2 years ago. Jeez. Yep. Okay.
So they're all open now, so if you want to catch a Lions game or Pistons game or, any of our great sports teams that are doing well, they're open. Rose Best is a business that opened on Orchard Lake. Oh, there you go, Michigan game, yeah, basketball's doing well. Rose Best is a business that provides a range of all-natural products, including lip balms, scrubs, soaps, and those sorts of things. You might know them from the farmer's market. They have a regular booth there, but now they have a brick-and-mortar location.
She's been long-standing. We love Miss Rose.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Location's
Yeah, I'd
beautiful.
strongly recommend if you guys haven't stopped by, especially with Christmas right around the corner.
Sounds like a great Christmas present.
Yeah, she's
Great stocking
fantastic.
stuffers.
Yeah.
100%.
Too much of my salary as Miss Rose.
Yeah.
Back to you, Chris.
Good stuff. And then finally, Back Nine opened in the Village Commons, which is a 24/7 indoor golf simulator facility. So got a chance to see that, and
Where is that?
it's same building as Sidecar Sliders, just a little further north.
Okay.
And what's the name? It's called the Back Nine. It's a franchised. They're around the country. It's mainly a membership model where you have a monthly membership fee that you pay, and then you can go anytime you want, 24/7. So you'll get a code and you put it in, let yourself in, and get your swings in, improve your golf game. But it's not just for members. And also, that membership gets you into any facility around the country that they have. But beyond that, if you just want to try it out once, you can reserve, just one segment at a time. Or if you want to book a party for like a corporate event or family party, you can do that as well.
Do you serve food and drink there too?
They do not serve food and drink there. But you can bring food and drink with you.
Bring your own clubs.
Bring your own clubs, yeah.
And you won't even lose your balls in the water.
I bet I will.
Find a way. Find a way.
Be great if they had the sound effects for when you don't hit well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Great, thank you very much. Item number 7, seeing that we have no public to comment. Can cruise up to Planning Commission comments. Do we have any comments or questions from commissioners for staff? Any questions?
Good update.
Yeah, thank you. All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Support.
Motion made and supported, all in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
8:04.